I guess we can start. We have a guest tonight. We have Stephanie Peterson from ARHC, who's going to talk to us about her experience with affordable housing.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So are we leading off with me then?
We are, yeah. I don't want to make you sit through all the other stuff, so I figured I would let you go first.
All right, I've actually got some slides to discuss a little bit about Metro West, a little bit about what we do for the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium. And I believe in Kate's initial email, wanted to know a little bit more about where Berlin is affordable housing wise.
Yes, that would be great.
All right, so
The new numbers are coming out Friday, I think I saw in an email.
yeah, that's the estimate. So I've been looking forward to this. I can't wait to go into a deep dive with that. So I'm actually the Affordable Housing Programs Manager for Metro West Collaborative Development, which is located in Newton. Metro West is also the affordable housing consultant for the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium. This is actually the start of the 10th fiscal year. We've been doing that. And Berlin has been a member since July 1st, 2021. Metro West, it's a 30-year-old plus organization. We do all things affordable housing, including building it. We're actually working on in the works with a big project in Hudson, a big affordable rental development. We connect people with it through our work as a mass housing monitor, through our housing clinics, through the lotteries that we hold for rental or for home ownership properties. We also advocate for it and work with community leaders and to work on policies and programs that support the construction and preservation of affordable housing. So there are 9 communities in the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium. Berlin is the most recent. And we do provide a lot of services. We do keep tabs on the subsidized housing inventory, and we do some monitoring there. Some of the affordable housing developments have their own mass housing monitor. So we keep an eye more on the ones where DHCD is the subsidizing agency, because they have a slightly different way of doing things, and also things for which the town is the monitor. I also do kind of keep track of who is currently living in the mass housing subsidized developments that have another monitor, just so I can know who's there. We organize regional meetings and events. We do program development or administration. We do some rental assistance programs for a number of towns. I think only one in the consortium, but we do other work for other towns, grant assistance. We pretty much help out where we can. Actually, Berlin has been great, gotten a lot of interesting, little projects over the past year or so. So, Berlin is making good use of our consortium work. There are some other things that we do. Not everything necessarily is covered under the Assabet Regional Housing Consortium contract. If we were to do like a housing production plan, honestly, something like that would be a separate contract. But of course, if anything like that ever came up, just give us a call and let us know. So what is affordable housing? There is the general definition, which is where, no matter what you make, it's whether you're an owner or a tenant or what your income is, you are not spending greater than 30% of the household gross income on housing related expenses. So that would be mortgage or rent and utilities, things like car loans and cell phones don't count toward that. Affordable housing for our purposes, that is considered housing targeted to families or individuals earning no more than 80% of the area median income. The area and those income limits, those are determined by the US Department of Housing and Urban Development. Their most recent income limits for 2023 were published in early May. There must be an affordability restriction on the property for at least 30 years. Most of what's being done now is in perpetuity. And the housing must meet the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Community requirements to be included on the state's subsidized housing inventory. And there's actually a form that you fill out to request to have units added. So how are things in Berlin? Berlin is actually in great shape. Unfortunately, we're talking about old information right now, and I was really hoping the new report would be ready for our meeting tonight. But as of today, this is still the 2010 census number. There's 1,183 year-round housing units. There are 204 subsidized, so those are on the SHI report, for a total of 17.5% subsidized housing inventory. And that number is actually the 204 divided by 1,183. So unofficially, because the census data that the state uses to determine that year-round housing number, that's actually been published by the US Census. And so I was able to determine that. The piece of missing information was the number of vacancies, which is broken out by a number of things. And the state includes all those numbers except for the number of units that are considered seasonal, recreational, or occasional use. So anyway, snooping around the US Census, I found that Berlin now has 1,307 year-round housing units. Right now, the count is still at 204, which drops the subsidized housing inventory a little bit, but still over the desired 10% that the state is looking for. So that would bring Berlin down to about 15.6%. There are 10 affordable ownership units at Highland Ridge that can be added. The lottery, I think, for those units took place early this year. And actually, the state does they initiate a biennial update. And the units at Highland Ridge, the select board back in May asked for those to be included. So, the expectation is that will be on the new report. If you want to see what the current and somewhat out-of-date report looks like, I know it's kind of small. It includes rentals and some Department of Developmental Services confidential group homes, and includes the ownership. So there's Northbrook Village, a count of 2 for Department of Developmental Services group homes, Whitney Estates, Berlin Woods, Sawyer Hill, Northbrook Senior Limited Partnership, Green Acres, the Rockwell, and the Capes of Berlin, aka Southwood Commons. So as I said before, Berlin is in the enviable position of having attained at least 10% subsidized housing. So what are some things to look out for? Actually, like I said, the state initiates an update every 2 years, and the most recent one was earlier this year. But the town can add units to the SHI at any time. There's actually a form to be completed, and it does ask for things like building permit dates, occupancy permits. I can send it around to you after the meeting. And that's something I can certainly help out with. There is a lot of town intensive data on here, but Like I said, updates can occur anytime, not just every 2 years. And then, of course, the year-round housing units every 10 years. And another thing to keep in mind, even though that number of year-round housing units is updated every 10 years, it's just going to be a good thing to keep an eye on market rate development, because you don't want gains in market rate development to outpace all the good work that's been done with affordable housing. So you don't want to keep seeing that percentage drop, or at least certainly not drop below 10%. Another thing to keep in mind is that the number of affordable rentals is artificially inflated. If a development includes at least 25% affordable units, targeted, at 80% or below of area median income, all the units in the development can be counted on the subsidized housing inventory. The town also has an option to be a little more creative with how they want to continue to add affordable housing. It could be, you can spread the units throughout the community instead of having, concentrated development. If there's a parcel or a home that's up for sale, that's something that can be converted into a deed restricted home. Also, another option is now that the 80% AMI envelope is considered low income, and then there are other gradations of what is considered low income as well. You can also, now that the low income has been taken care of, you can also start looking more at housing targeted to folks who are earning between 80% and 120% of the area median income. You might have heard the term workforce housing or the missing middle, but that's something else that that Berlin can concentrate its efforts on. And it doesn't seem like these units would count toward the SHI. I haven't been able to figure this out, but there is something in the regulations for EOHLC, and it doesn't seem like it's 100% impossible for middle income housing to be included, but I have not yet been able to suss out how that happens. So did anyone have any questions, or was there anything you were hoping that I would cover and did not?
No, I think in general, we're just starting. So we're kind of trying to suss out our role and, how we bring benefit, how we utilize the funds that are available, those types of things.
So I have a couple of questions just along the lines that, again, I'm fishing. None of these are sort of approved programs, or might not even be great ideas. When it comes to sort of grants and administration, so if we did a sort of home fix-it grant program for people who had or lower income, just so they could continue to live in their houses and not have it crumble around them, would that be something, if we came up with the parameters and the dollar amount, that you could end up helping us administer? Because like we're sort of volunteers, and so I don't know if we would be able to do that on our own.
Oh yeah, that is something that Metro West could definitely work with you on. Actually, my boss, Elisa Gardner Tadris, she's the director of housing policies and programs, and she's the one who's in charge of like sending out proposals. But yeah, we that's definitely the sort of work that we do for other towns.
And while you were talking about the last slide, I had even a crazier idea. In town, of course, a farmer could put their land into conservation and get sort of some money back, as long as the conservation sort of deed writer could potentially like have someone who lives in their house who's lower income and it's falling apart, that we like pay them to add a 40B rider onto their property, and they can use that money to, either A, live on, or B, fix up the home, knowing that the next owner of that house would have to fall within income guidelines.
I think that is possible, and there's actually, there's an attorney I need to get in touch with. I had watched a video of a previous presentation, and there was someone from, actually this was from an organization out on the Cape. Someone used the term purchasing a deed restriction,
Mhm.
and I do wonder, I do want to find out more about that. That is, I
And
think-
we might say, I think one of the things we talked about at some point is that, it's expensive to build something new. And there are things to do to sort of keep something both affordable and existing. So the potentially there's something for an existing lower income person to do that they can hang on to their properties longer. And so those are both just weird ideas that again, we've not discussed. And so I could be sort of really super crazy about these things. And then I don't know if you know, there's a 40B that's been for sale, I think forever in our neighborhood. That I don't know, like the status of it's a DCHD one at 29 Village Lane. And like what roles like can be done to potentially help find a new buyer for it so it doesn't drop off the 40B list. Because I think that's, I know in our neighborhood, we've had a couple of properties that have left 40B because we couldn't find a buyer for them. And what can be sort of done to help out those sort of circumstances.
yeah, let me see if I can find out what's going on with that. Because what happens for resales where well,
Yep.
what used to be DHCD is the subsidizing agency. The owner would contact the town and contact EOHLC, and then EOHLC picks someone to be the lottery agent. So I assume that at some point there was someone working on this. So yeah, that was 29 Lane.
But I think it's 29 Village Lane. I don't know, Beth, if I have the address a little wrong, but it's a messy one because it's the reason it's being sold is a messy divorce where the two partners are
Oh.
not in agreement about where life should be going or other things that happen when there are messier divorces. And so.
Yeah, I think
but
this has been going on for a while.
Yes, it has.
Is that those circumstances sound familiar?
Think you have the number right, Scott.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but we definitely want to make sure that things don't fall off. So if there are
Right.
things that we can do to help with that, we would want to do that.
Right. And Beth and I both know the person, the party that's still living there. The other partner has, I think, left the state, but like can help if necessary. I think some of it is that as a lower income person, where they go next is part of the problem of if they sold, the housing inventory in the state for lower income folks is horrible. I mean, even Boston, has a record number of families in shelters looking for places. This person does not want to be, and hopefully won't ever be, one of those families sitting in a shelter waiting to find something new, just because they can't afford the current mortgage.
Yeah, I will take a look into that tomorrow and see what's
Yeah.
going on.
And I know other things we've talked about that folks are really interested in was potentially doing some sort of grant for Mass Save or those types of things to help people, lower their energy costs so they could stay in their homes or different things. But we also don't know whether these things are possible with an affordable housing trust.
So it would be the housing trust running a
Well,
like a-
offering small grants like, Mass Save will come into your house and tell you what needs to be done to make your house more airtight so the heating costs go down or those types of things. And they do it at a very affordable price normally. But sometimes people wouldn't even be able to afford that piece. So we thought maybe that might be something that we could help with.
Yeah, there's actually something, I just came across this like literally earlier in the week. There are some energy assistance programs on the state website for renters and for homeowners. So I can send you a link for that as well. And then okay, and then the grant program you're kind of thinking of is almost somewhat related to what Scott had mentioned previously. So maybe just something to fill in the gap between what Mass Save provides for free and what the homeowner may not necessarily be in a position to pay for.
And then Stephanie, what's the relationship between your agency and like the Central Regional Planning Commission? Because they're hiring a regional housing coordinator as well, and sort of where the lines might be between what you folks can do and what that person, who I think we're gonna get like a few hours a month, if not a few hours a week of time with.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some overlap with what we provide. Honestly, the central, was it the Central Mass Regional Planning?
Commission.
Yeah, it's probably a larger organization, and I think if I remember correctly, you are officially working with them as of July 1st, I think.
Yeah, the hiring process is why there's not someone in place by the 1st of July.
Oh,
The-
wow,
the-
so that hasn't
They,
happened.
well, they did first round of interviews and the first candidate withdrew, the second candidate withdrew, and so they re-advertised and interviewed last week and are in the process of potentially offering, hopefully, knock on wood, still later this week or early next week, someone. Of course, that's gonna be my update. So now I don't have to do that update later in the meeting.
Wow, that is a surprise. I actually did read the regional housing coordinator
Yeah.
posting at one point, and I don't remember a lot about it. I think there is, like I said, I think there is the potential for overlap, and there's probably, just other things that, the larger organization may be able to provide more assistance with.
Yeah, so that's something I guess we'll have to sort of keep an eye on, and we'll have them in and see what their take is on which roles you both play
Mhm.
as we go forward.
Okay.
So for example, if we had a piece of land, say tax title or otherwise, and a budget to build a house, which I think we did just get some numbers of what is has been collected. for
Yeah.
these purposes. I don't know exactly what part of what is available. But if we had, let's say we had a donated piece of tax title land, we had a budget, would your organization be able to coordinate a developer? Is that a part of your function as well? And in that process, perhaps find the appropriate person for that that property?
Um,
How far in that process do you get?
Yeah, we've had some discussions on this for, I think, a single home might be too small. I think it's a great idea because honestly, with the opportunity to own an affordable home without the additional costs of HOA fees or condo fees, that is just so novel that I think it's a great idea. Working on a single home, I think would be a little difficult for Metro West as a developer. And actually, it would just be better for me to get back to you just to double check on, if Metro West would be able to help you find a developer, or have suggestions, and that's something I could certainly check into.
So what would your threshold be? I'm trying to
I'm sorry,
get,
what?
so if a single home, I mean, is it a case by case necessarily that you would get involved in developing or helping develop a property? Do you have like a 6-unit minimum or?
I would have to check with, I think we do larger than that. I think, I can't remember exactly how many units will be in Hudson. Honestly, our executive director is also well-versed in the real estate end of things. So off the top of my head, I'm not sure what our threshold is, but it's probably like 40 units.
40?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, even with our bigger than I thought pot, I don't think we can afford 40.
And that's a number I can double check. 'Cause I know we've
Right,
talked
but,
about-
but we would need all of our money because there would still be money coming in from the sale of things. Our money would just be the difference between sort of what a developer, in other words, we'd pay the gap between a developer thought that they could do for this and what they could get for it. And so the money will go a little bit further than that, but, and that, you know, I mean, again, so I think we're just feeling out sort of where some of this stuff is and not is. We have a lot of great ideas, including that one, and hopefully we find partners that can help us pull it off.
Yeah, I know, like, we had talked about, we'll also probably have Habitat for Humanity in, because those single owner type homes on tax title, that seems like custom made for that type of
Oh,
project.
yeah. Yeah, that actually I live out in Berkshire County, and yeah, there have been a lot of single family home affordable sales and lotteries, and Habitat for Humanity out here has been a part of it.
So a big part of your role with us is maintaining the housing list, or do you also handle the lottery?
Actually, we would. Oh, I already closed that. We are not automatically involved with the lotteries. Berlin has a number of properties where Mass Housing has already assigned a monitor. Lynn Sweet Consulting is actually the monitor for a number of newer properties. And then, you know, and I think there are some where the state is the state and the town are the monitors. And, you know, if there were a need to be a lottery, you know, maybe DHCD would ask us to do it, but DHCD usually selects who would handle that. So it's not a given that Metro West would be heading up a lottery for anything. You know, like if something came to fruition with that single family house, you know, that is something we could certainly work with the town on.
Thank you.
And then we've been asked to, you know, for the past couple of years, we have been asked to just kind of weigh in on potential rent increases at the Rockwell. And that's something that we've been doing for the town as well.
And there have been some concerns, because Stephanie, you've done some great presentations on this, like that there is a rate to which Rockwell can legally increase the rents on their affordable units and still be considered affordable. And then there's like, boy, if someone's living there and struggling and we're raising their rent by $150 a month, are they going to be able to stay there? We're going to force someone to be kicked out because we allow the rents to go up. It has been a struggle, because it's also, if the Rockwell's not making enough money to keep up with repairs and other stuff, then there's other problems there too.
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, it is. They've not ever threatened that, but it's at least understanding if they're bringing in less rent, you know, that has to go somewhere or come from somewhere. Are they raising it higher for everybody else because of that? Or, but yes, Stephanie's been there for those fun conversations we've had.
Yeah, I don't work with rentals as much, so it's been interesting for me. The process that goes into raising the rent and the balance between, you know, as Scott was saying, you know, the development has to make money, but you know, affordable rents just seem to be backing up onto, you know, market rate.
I know that was, I also did, and I'll go into a little more later, but I did have a meeting with Kristen and mentioned that the Affordable Housing Trust should be looped into those conversations also, just so if there is a place or a time we should step in, you know, we would know that we need to do that. And she said she would do that in the future. It's just, I think everybody's trying to figure out where we fit right now.
Mhm. So, you know, I think Kate has been coming to the ARC meetings, but yeah, we have the town representatives who attend that, it's a combination of planners and affordable housing trust folks. So it's, you know, it's a great resource for ideas too. And, you know, you can always reach out to someone from there for more ideas. Harvard's had a municipal affordable housing trust for years, and I think, you know, they've really been able to step up the amount of folks on the trust and, you know, really kind of start coming into their own with that.
For a question too, we also had talked a little bit about, you know, there was an article that came out a bit ago that talked about the fact that CPA funds, the affordable housing piece of them, was not being spent on affordable housing. And obviously, in our case, there would be pushback on that narrative because we simply didn't have the mechanism to apply funds to affordable housing before now. I was just curious about your take on that particular article or that particular narrative.
You know, I read it. I'm sorry, I can't really comment on that right now. I read it, but I don't have enough in mind.
That's fine. I was just curious.
But what is the CPA funding in Berlin? Is it at 1.5%?
Oh, it's 3.
Okay.
And that's part of why we were created, is there needed to be a mechanism to actually spend those funds. So just, you know, for example, obviously these are all things that are administered right now by other, like for CPA funds, you have to go through CPA, and the planning board, I think, administers some of these funds, but the numbers that actually could be applied to affordable housing that we just got, we have CPA currently has $193,095.73 without FY24 being posted yet. Affordable Housing Planning Board has $162,128 that was received from developers that couldn't sell at the affordable price. And then there's also money from mall mitigation. There's $358,102. So we do have a significant amount of funds that have just been sitting there for a significant period of time.
Right, and even with CPA funds, that's the 10% that's required on housing. There's still the 60% that goes to whatever the town wants that we could tap into if we had a compelling case, you know, for CPA, because they've spent it on historical and conservation to date, so.
And there's also, obviously with CPA, there's the mechanism to borrow should you need to.
Yep.
So hopefully this is helpful for you too, to get a better picture of sort of where the town is.
Oh yeah, it is helpful.
Where do we fall? I mean, you say we're in a good picture, even though our numbers might be a little bit inflated, but in comparison to the other towns you deal with, are they meeting the 10%? Are they close? Are they hovering? Do they lose a lot of, are they able to maintain? Like, is there a general flow, or is every town just so very different?
It really is kind of all of the above. You know, one of the towns I work with, they have some affordability restrictions that are going to expire. I think in the 2040s, which sounds so incredibly far away, but really isn't. It really is a mixed bag. Some folks, you know, some towns are definitely below the 10%. And, you know, with some would definitely benefit. I'm sure everyone will probably benefit by, you know, they might need to update their SHI. Maybe not everything in the works is included on there at that point. Also, I can't wait for those reports to come out, but it truly is a mixed bag, at the current 17%, where Berlin is, I think for the towns that I've worked with, that's unusual. So that's a great position to be in. Some are inching toward the 10%. Like I said, some have some things to keep an eye on in the future, expiring affordability. And, some towns are above the 10%, but maybe, not enough to ensure, to not necessarily ensure long-term maintaining that goal. If you're only like at 11, 12% and, depending on what's going on with market rate development in general.
So if we're in a good position in terms of that, I'm just in my head trying to figure out the best sell for affordable housing to many of the people that moved here for their 2-acre minimums and small schools, and because I think perhaps going to try to sit back and say, that's, let's put it towards recreation, let's put it towards other town things. We don't have to worry about the affordable housing right now, even though, there's the housing crisis. I'm trying to figure out the sell on that, like how to sell it to the greater good, so to speak. I don't think large scale is the way. I'm just brainstorming off the cuff of what my general feeling I'm getting from different people I talk to. So I know you deal with bigger developments, and that's why I try to think about more single family, more fill-in type developments, or appropriately located. We have commercial areas near highways, instead of breaking up rural areas.
Oh, so kind of the
Don't know.
retail, commercial on the lower floors with residential above that.
Maybe, yeah, we have a failing mall here. And I don't know, what kind of uses that could turn into. So I'm just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking if we're at 15 or 17% or somewhere in that ballpark, what's a good incentive to the taxpayers? I think developers are interested just because of the location of Berlin. So I'm trying to think about how to make this work, what it brings to Berlin for the people paying into the CPA fund. I don't know what your experience is with that, if there's been pushback or thought on that. I know.
Well, I can tell you just to start that there is 10% is mandated by CPA. You must put that amount in. So we would get funds no matter what. I'm sure we would look at a specific project and we would all have to be on board, and then we would look at how we would sell that to the town. But I think it's probably premature to do that right now, since we don't have any sort of project lined up or anything that is, as far as I know, in the pipeline.
Right.
Yeah, there was definitely support in the town to pass that, the Community Protection Act. So that's a plus. And as you said, the amount that goes toward affordable housing, is mandated.
Right, I think if we end up with things that talk about how we keep some of the places affordable, so we stay in that like, or how we, voluntary programs like, helping people fix up their homes, so the housing stock stays in decent shape for people who are having income some are not great. I think there'd be a lot of that, because Berlin is an odd town, and that we have a serious number of households who do struggle fiscally, and we have a serious chunk of $1 million plus mansions.
Mhm.
And some of it could be that part of the housing trust is to that sort of working class, so it doesn't add to the SHI inventory, but helps keep that sort of ladder where the gap is between. We're not just doing things for lower income or, the people with the multi-million dollar mansions, protecting those, but that we're helping keep some sort of stratification, so that some people, as they go up and down the income scheme, can find something here in town.
And I
Again,
think some of that is housing doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar mansion, even
Right,
if it's on
right.
2 acres. You can live in a small
Right.
house and still be rural.
And I think that the right plot in the right part of town, especially working with a planning commission, we could get some exemptions where this particular plot of this part of town makes sense for something that's not necessarily 2 acres. It's, I don't have any spots particularly off the mind, and I don't know what's on tax title, but there could be somewhere by having a sub 2 acre plot in a smaller house, the remaining plots that are wrong to put it into 6 McMansions, it becomes, 2 McMansions instead of 6, because we took the right 1.5 acres off of, 39 Saurio Hill Road, where the homeowners are trying to sell it to developers.
Do we have any more questions for Stephanie specifically? Did folks have any more questions for her?
No, I
You-
her time.
Okay, well, Kate has my email, of course, please let me know if anything else comes up, and I've got some things to check into and get back to you all on.
Awesome.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank
But
you
it
so
was-
much.
Thank
This was
you.
really helpful. We really
Thank you, Stephanie. You've definitely given me things to
Thank
think
you
about.
so much, Stephanie. Yeah,
All right,
Really
well, thank you very
appreciate it.
much. Have a great evening, and it was great to see you all.
you too.
Thanks.
Nice.
All right, so I think Scott already gave his update. Kate, did you go to a meeting?
It was canceled this week.
Okay. And then I met with Kristen about a lot of the things that had come up, and I got the numbers that I gave y'all. Talked about getting just informed if there was anything surrounding housing, even if it doesn't seem immediately pertinent, just so that we're all in the loop. What else did I talk to her about? I think I had talked to her about tax title, and she said that was a little bit more complicated. I know she was going to circle back with us. She didn't seem to think there was anything right now that would be appropriate, but she wasn't entirely sure. I thought it was worth looking or worth talking to somebody just to find out. Beth and I had also talked to Eloise about the 2028 expiration, and she was intimately involved in that project and felt that that would never expire, that they would continue to, that was specifically designed as an affordable housing community. So she felt that they would continue to just re-up that. She said, certainly, keep an eye on it, but she was not concerned at all.
Lisa, is that for the Northbrook Village one?
Yeah, was it Northbrook 2?
What was really interesting to me to learn was that it's really just a question of the developer asking the state to extend it. There doesn't seem to be any sort of process more than that.
Is that what Stephanie was just referring to, that certain form?
No, I think the form was for counting units in your SHI, I think. But maybe it's the same for developers who want to extend.
Okay.
Yeah, but they take care of that. We don't, the town doesn't have anything to do with that really, other than like, we could maybe give them a heads up if we or something, but they would be informed that that was coming around.
Yeah, I wonder how long that process is.
My guess is the state reaches out and then they send a form back and everything is set.
Okay, well, that sounds promising.
Yeah, she really, like I said, she wasn't concerned at all, was she, Beth?
No,
Okay.
I was very pleased. She made it sound like kind of a slam dunk, and just again something to keep an eye on.
Awesome. That's great news.
Lauren, do we have minutes from the last meeting?
Yep. Yep, do you want me to go through them? Or share them? I don't know.
Yeah, something. We can't approve them unless we've seen them. So even if you want to wait until next time and
Okay.
just send them over to all of us so that we can come in
Okay.
at the beginning of next meeting and then approve them, and then we can approve this one and the last one,
Got it. Okay.
and then we'll get those posted. Let's see. What do we want to do at the next meeting? Do we want to pursue having Habitat in? Do we want to pursue, there was one other individual that Carolyn had given us, I can't remember her specific role. What would we like to do at the next meeting?
Might be good to talk to Habitat.
Just send that over so I can reach out to them and try to get them in for the next meeting then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think they might be very interesting.
I think so too. And I think that is, that is the type of project, if something came up, tax title or something else, that is the type of project that we would do in Berlin. There aren't really even that many spaces for large things. So I don't think that would be something to be horribly concerned about either. There just isn't the property
Right.
available.
And I'd be interested in them, like, what makes a project appealing to them? How much money on an average one unit, development do they think they need to be subsidized to make it work? So we get a sense of, because I don't have a sense of, like, assume we only wanted to build properties, which I don't think we want to do, but how far does the $715,000 we have go towards that? Is that 2 properties or 15 properties? And if we knew what made things appealing when we're looking at tax title and other properties, we go, ooh, this is going to be good for Habitat.
And they may even be interested in seeing what we have just to
Yeah.
look. So they may be the expert eyes that we need.
And sort of the piece of how do families to get Habitat homes, how they're selected.
Mhm.
I guess when I worked with Habitat in Maine, it was very specific. Like there was a family sort of chosen before the project even started.
Because they
And I
hope
don't
that
know if that's true here.
I thought that's true in
Um,
Massachusetts from what I've seen, because that allows the family to put in some sweat equity into the house that will
Right.
be theirs.
Right. Another thing potentially for the agenda, I did some research into the CPA funds and what the limits are on how we can use them. We talked specifically in relationship to the Mass Energy, like a match and grant kind of setup. And there's some interesting nuances that, I have some things I can send out for people to read in advance, but it's something we should talk about.
Okay, I'll put that on the agenda for next time too. So reach out to Habitat and put that on the agenda.
Yeah.
And that should be a pretty full agenda for next time.
Yep. Good.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
I like how we're efficient.
All right.
Super good.
I tend to run very, I'm one of those people. Yeah, so, and hopefully we can maybe get somebody for Habitat in person. Otherwise, we'll schedule another virtual meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.